What happens when two beautiful, seemingly loving twin sisters turn against each other? This is the story of how Amaka and Naza, gifted twins who let envy and jealousy get between them. It all began when Amaka and Naza, 19-year-old twin sisters, lived in the quiet part of Aguda in Lagos, Nigeria. Growing up, they were inseparable and shared everything. They wore the same clothes, attended the same schools from nursery to secondary, and even recently gained admission into the prestigious University of Lagos. They were fondly known in their community as Taye and Kende by the Yorubas who worked with their parents. Their dad was a big manufacturer of motor parts and was quite known as one of the richest men from the eastern part of the country. The twins shared everything, even friends and dreams. They both wanted to be surgeons and were studying medicine at the university. Their bond was the envy of many, and people often joked that they shared a single soul. But beneath the surface of their seemingly perfect relationship, a simmering rivalry existed. A rivalry that neither acknowledged, yet both felt deeply. Competing with themselves started early, rooted in their competitive nature. Whether it was school grades, attention from boys, or praise from their parents, each twin always sought to outshine the other. The desire to be the better twin quietly festered in their hearts, but neither spoke of it, leaving the tension to grow unspoken. Both sisters were gifted singers. They were blessed with angelic voices that usually sent worshippers reeling in emotions whenever they sang in their parents' church. The talent was easily spotted in school, and the local campus fellowship they attended allowed them to develop the talent more in the choir. Every Sunday, people would notice how they both tried to outdo one of another on stage during worship sessions. No one thought anything serious about it, as they all thought it was the Spirit leading them. But when Mike of Fame, the country's most popular reality show, announced auditions for its new season, things began to come out to the open. Both sisters saw their chance to shine. The show promised fame, fortune, and a shot at stardom. For Amaka and Naza, it was the ultimate validation, a chance to prove who was truly superior. Both auditioned the same day, each pouring their heart into the performance. It was an easy decision for the judges, but they still had to fulfill the processes required for a transparent selection. Days turned into weeks as they anxiously awaited the results. Finally, a letter arrived addressed to Amaka. She tore it open, her face lighting up with joy. "I made it," she screamed, waving the letter in front of Naza, who forced a smile and congratulated her sister. But inside, Naza's heart sank. She had also auditioned and dreamed of this moment, but her name wasn't on the letter. Naza sat by the window for the remaining hours of the day, waiting to see a dispatch man walk into their home with her invitation. But the day ended with nothing like that. That evening, Amaka was all over the phone with their friends. She spoke in a tone depicting she was the better twin, and Naza was finally in her place. Naza, who is the softer of the two, was sad, and her parents saw this. They scolded Amaka for taunting her sister and told her to behave better. Naza went to bed early while Amaka was still on her phone with friends. Naza chose to sleep in the visitor's room as she couldn't take any more of Amaka's taunting. While alone, she cried herself to sleep. But while Amaka was still in the living room chatting on the phone with friends, she heard a knock on the gate, looked through the window and saw the security guard speaking to a mail dispatcher. She watched keenly as the man was handed an envelope similar to the one she had received earlier on. She dropped her phone and ran out of the house. She walked briskly towards the gate and snatched the letter from the guard. She turned to walk back to the house and tore the mail open. Seeing whom it was addressed to, she became sad. She walked back to the guard and asked him if he had read who it belonged to. He said no, he hadn't read the name on the envelope. Amaka smiled and walked back into the house with the mail tucked into her pants and her t-shirt covering it. But as she opened the door and walked in, their mum was standing before her with hands outstretched. She had been watching from the balcony when Amaka snatched the envelope from the guard. "Give it to me," the mum said. "No, mum, I was just going to surprise her in the morning. I didn't mean any harm." Her mum, who had since known about the brewing rivalry but never addressed it, ignored her and snatched it off her hands. The mum went into the visitor's room to meet Naza. Amaka heard Naza scream in joy as soon as the door was shut. Amaka, envious, sat pressing her phone. Naza came out of the room, now shedding tears of happiness. Amaka knew the tears were more in relief of them being at par with no advantage, and not that Naza got the chance to compete on the show. But my invitation still came before yours. You were an afterthought. It's either you went behind my back to bribe the producers, or maybe one of the earlier chosen contestants died. You were certainly not invited because of your talent, she said, and got up and went to bed. Naza said nothing and just ignored her sister. The next morning, all their friends had heard that Naza made it to the competition as well. But Amaka had somehow divided the loyalties. A few were happy, others didn't share in the joy. Those who aligned with Amaka vowed to make Naza trend on social media for the wrong reasons, while those loyal to Amaka did the same. By the end of the day, both of them were trending on Twitter. The show promoters liked the publicity being given to the show by the two camps, and so they sent a camera crew after them in school. The girls were both in the lecture hall when they saw a production van with Mic of Fame boldly written on it. Amaka, the ever-so-showy one, noticed the van first. She quickly got up to leave the class, and a few of her friends followed. When Naza got up to leave, the lecturer noticed the movement and ordered everyone to stop disrupting his class. She sat pained and looked on as Amaka was covered by the camera crew, all of them trying to get her to say something to the camera. She couldn't pay attention to the lectures any longer, so immediately after the lecture ended, she and her friends ran out to meet the crew. As she approached the Mic of Fame crew, Amaka went live on her phone and began mocking Naza. The rejected one is coming to force her way to an interview. She said. The Mic of Fame social media handlers jumped on it and went on live too. Naza walked to the live without a care. The notifications on her phone gave an idea of what was happening. So rather than grant an interview, she turned away and walked towards the car park and zoomed off. Now the Mic of Fame camera crew abandoned Amaka, jumped in their van and pursued Naza. She saw the commotion in her review mirror but didn't stop. She drove straight to her hostel and left the crew at the hostel entrance. This made the online buzz go crazy. She had succeeded in turning the table around. This got Amaka and her friends angry and tried to spin what happened negatively. Naza stole a cameraman's phone when she was trying to get him to interview her forcefully, and when the innocent man refused, she snatched his phone and drove away. Immediately, this caught on like fire on Twitter. These two haven't even competed on the show, and they are already generating a buzz for the Mic of Fame brand. Naza saw all that was happening online and it hurt her. She called her parents and told them her side of the story. Their dad drove out of the house that midnight and went to the University of Lagos. The girls were no longer in the same hostel because of their constant bickering. The father, not wanting any of them to feel favored, parked at the Unilag Senate building garden and asked both of them to come meet him there. It was a conference call. Amaka jumped up immediately the call ended. Ever wanted to show she is the favorite. Her friends followed her as she ran down the stairs of the hostel. Naza could see her walking briskly to the Senate building from the balcony of her hostel. But she took her time and didn't tell her friends where she was heading. When their dad saw Amaka coming with her friends, he called her phone and told her he wanted to see only her, and not her friends. So her friends were told to stay at a distance, but she told them to film Naza every step. Naza saw the friends at a corner recording her, and she did the peace sign to the video. This trended again as people began speculating that there was going to be a truce. They both pretended all was fine when they met their dad. He knew they weren't, and no matter how much he inquired, they wouldn't say otherwise. "We are cool now," is all they told him. He left a disturbed man and urged them to keep their differences off social media. They hugged each other in their dad's presence to assure him everything was fine between them. As the days went by, both girls began preparing for the show. Their parents got the same things for both girls, but the envy between them grew by the day. They practiced day and night, and their parents even got them personal voice and stagecraft coaches so both can excel. All this favored the Mic of Fame show owners as the online engagement given to them was making them more attractive to sponsoring brands. Brands had already aligned their products with the personality they felt better soothed their brand persona. Naza was favored by the cool and demure lifestyle brands, while Amaka was courted by the loud brands. In all these, Mic of Fame benefited more. As the competition drew closer, the atmosphere at home grew increasingly tense. Amaka and Naza, who had once been inseparable, now barely spoke to each other except when necessary. Their rivalry, which had always been under the surface, had now fully emerged. They avoided each other and even took different routes to school to avoid running into each other. The day of the competition arrived, and the sisters found themselves backstage, preparing for their performances. The producers, keen to milk the opportunity further, had ensured no other contestant got the nod. Viewers had no more interest in other contestants. Everyone wanted to see the Battle of the Titans, Amaka versus Naza, the twin sisters who hated each other. This had created several trending hashtags. Best twin ever and evil twin ever were the most trending ones. Finally, the time came for the first performance. They were asked to perform a duet. They both brought their best game and had no clear winner in the first round. In the second round, Amaka was to go first, followed immediately by Naza. Amaka's performance was nothing short of spectacular. She owned the stage, hitting every note perfectly and captivating the audience with her stage presence. The crowd erupted in applause, and she walked off the stage with a satisfied smile, confident that she would win the show. Naza, watching from the wings, felt a surge of determination. She knew she had to outdo her sister if she wanted to win. As she stepped onto the stage, she poured every ounce of emotion and skill into her performance. Her voice soared, and for a moment it seemed as if she might even surpass her sister's performance. But then she slipped while dancing, and in a moment of intense emotion, Naza missed a crucial note. Amaka, who was backstage, smiled wryly and shook the hands of one of the stage crew. The man had surreptitiously dropped oil on the stage floor while pretending to clean it after Amaka's performance. No one had seen this, and no one knew about it. The audience noticed Naza's bad note, and the energy in the room shifted. She finished her performance, but the applause was noticeably less enthusiastic than it had been for Amaka. Backstage, Naza was devastated. She knew her sister had done something, but had no proof to show. The show was about singing talent, and that note she missed had given her a lower score than her sister's. She had failed, and the weight of that realization was crushing. Amaka, sensing her sister's despair, felt a twisted sense of satisfaction. But instead of reaching out to comfort Naza, she walked away, leaving her sister to face her disappointment alone. The results were announced later after 2 more performances, but Naza's spirit was already broken. She couldn't muster any strength to compete again. Amaka was declared the winner. The news hit Naza hard, and she struggled to hold back her tears as she watched her sister bask in the glory. Their parents in the crowd didn't know what to do. They didn't want to celebrate Amaka, neither did they want to sulk for Naza. The envy between the girls also affected how their parents reacted to their successes. Naza withdrew into herself, consumed by bitterness and resentment. Amaka, blinded by her desire for stardom, failed to notice the damage their rivalry had caused. She had won the competition, but at the cost of her relationship with the one person who had always been by her side. In the weeks that followed, the sisters grew further apart. Amaka's victory catapulted her into international stardom, but it was hollow without her sister to share it with. Naza, on the other hand, sank deeper into her sadness, feeling both defeated and betrayed. Months later, both sisters had since moved on from themselves, but they still felt empty. Amaka, now an international superstar, didn't find the nudge she needed to push her beyond her capabilities, as her sister wasn't competing with her anymore. Both sisters soon realized the extent of what they had lost. Their once unbreakable bond was now shattered, and the love they had once shared was buried beneath layers of envy and regret. Neither sister had truly won. Instead, they had both lost something far more valuable: their relationship and their family. The story of Amaka and Naza became a cautionary tale on social media, a reminder of how envy and rivalry can destroy even the strongest of bonds. Did you enjoy the story? If you did, kindly let me know what you would have done to resolve this rivalry if you were their friend or parent. The end. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel to enjoy more interesting stories like this. Thank you.